From an entire list of iconic characters like Mickey Mouse and Deadpool with different missing prints on them, to unexpected typos like minifigures in the Harley Fatboy set, here are some rare and different misprints that add a unique twist to LEGO as a whole. Kicking things off with figures that have completely missing prints. First off, we've got the alien from Toy Story, and this one's just a bit eerie because it's missing all eye printing, like all of it. Imagine 3 blank eye sockets staring back at you. Definitely a rare find, though these kinds of misprints are more common than you might expect. I mean, that looks a bit creepy though. But moving on now, we have Mickey Mouse, and there are a couple of interesting misprints here too. One version has absolutely no eye printing, which makes Mickey look kind of spooky and, similar to the alien from Toy Story, and the other has its eyes printed way down at the bottom of these sockets, giving Mickey a very unusual and unsettling appearance. Both of these variations, however, have been around for a while, so you might just come across one of them before. But now let's even talk about Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob. Here's yet another figure with no eye printing at all on the upper eye parts. It's actually a pretty unique find, especially since SpongeBob misprints aren't all that common. And look, I'm not sure if you noticed, but it seems like a lot of these quirky misprints tend to show up more in collectible minifigure series, but that's maybe just because they're produced in different factories or batches, who really knows. Shifting gears, however, to Ninjago, there is also this Kai minifigure where the face print is slightly shifted up, and this means that the eyes end up at the top of the bandana, which gives it a bit of an unconventional look. Although it's not a major misprint like some of the other ones, it's definitely interesting to spot. Another Ninjago figure though to check out is one where the entire face print is pushed down. Picture this, the mouth ends up on the chin and the eyes are where the nose should be. It results in a figure with a massive forehead and a rather comical appearance. I mean, just look at this thing. But another collectible minifigure is the Boxer. On one side, everything's fine, but on the other, where there should be bruising, there's none at all. It's a straightforward misprint, but still noteworthy for collectors who appreciate these kinds of variations. Like a Boxer with no bruising, that's kind of just useless. But here, moving on, take a look at Dracula from Monster Fighters, because this one's interesting also. The mouth ends up at the bottom opening of the stud meant for the chin, and the eyes are positioned way down at the bottom of the face. And honestly, it gives Dracula an unintentionally funny and exaggerated forehead, making it one of the more humorous misprints out there. It's kind of funny. But then there is this baby minifigure where its face is printed on the top of the head and the mouth awkwardly placed on the forehead. Now, I know the picture is a bit blurry, but it still displays the amusing yet adorable misprint of this, little baby minifigure. Or how about Dr. Herbert from the Simpsons series? And this figure is yet again another example where the eye printing is missing, leaving just 2 black dots. What's up with all the eye misprints? Why is it so common? Or even the Cheshire Cat from another collectible minifigure series. I mean, this one's just a real mess. The eyes, the nose, and the mouth are all off center and jumbled up. It's chaotic, but honestly, it's pretty captivating too. I mean, just look at it. And next up is Loki, whose head print is slightly lowered. Now, you may think it's not a huge change, but it's definitely noticeable, and it adds a unique twist to the character's look. And sticking with Marvel, Black Widow, there is a version where her face has a bit too much black ink around the eyes. I mean, that looks a little weird. And when you compare it to the regular version, it's clear that something definitely changed during the printing process. And now moving to DC, there is Two-Face, where one side of the face has purple ink instead of the usual black. This kind of variation is quite the discovery, especially from older collections where you might find unexpected surprises like this. And back to Marvel with Deadpool, but not for his usual antics. This figure completely missed a step during the printing process, like completely. And if you guessed correctly, the leg pouch is completely missing. Unlike misprints where the details are off, sometimes parts just skip a printing step altogether. And how about Hulk from Age of Ultron? Because in one variant, only half of his pants got printed. It's quite strange and almost comical to see such a big character, especially for LEGO, with half of its attire missing in action. Coming up next, Indiana Jones steps into the spotlight with not one, but 2 misprints. One figure has a messed up leg printing, while the other has a belt and a holster that are completely misaligned. Honestly, it's interesting to see how these kinds of mistakes can even slip through quality control. And one of the crazier examples is the iconic Spider-Man, where both the head and torso are misprinted. The eyes spill out of the usual black borders on the head, and the torso's silver detailing is incomplete. Despite these flaws though, it is a piece that we can all appreciate because it's quite rare and unique. Moving along, take a look at the 501st Stormtrooper with a seriously skewed helmet print. It's another example where the printing didn't quite align as intended, creating a striking visual difference from the standard design. Then there's the Scarlet Witch, whose tiara is almost completely misprinted in one version. These kinds of misprints can really change the appearance of a figure, adding a quirky charm to the collection. Like, honestly, would you even care if your figure looked like this? But perhaps one of the most amusing misprints is the backward printed Chewbacca. Imagine his nose on the back of his head and the bandolier belt facing the wrong way. It's a total accident during the printing process, but ends up becoming a cherished piece due to its unusual and funny nature. Moving on to a regular stormtrooper though, there is a small misprint on the visor where it's pushed down about a centimeter. It's not a major flaw, but it's definitely noticeable if you look closely. And next, we have a TIE fighter pilot with a similar issue. The Imperial symbols and the face details are printed slightly lower than they should be. For reference, this is what it looks like. Now let's talk about a more notable misprint involving Greedo from 2014. This minifigure has misprinted eyes that are lower than they should be. Why is it the eyes? This gives Greedo a bit of a funny, sad expression, which contrasts with his usual confident demeanor. Poor guy. Sticking with Star Wars though, Quinlan Vos, hopefully I'm saying that name right, there is a variant from the Republic Frigate set where one version has a more defined beard and mustache compared to the other, for whatever reason. And here's another fascinating find, a Death Watch Mandalorian with no visor print at all. Instead of the usual black visor, it's just a plain gray where the visor should be. Or here, check out this strange looking minifigure head with a line across the top and a circle under its left eye. It's pretty creepy looking, which makes it way more appealing in my opinion. It's just that much different. Then we have this Lego City minifigure with a torso that was supposed to be bright red but turned out much darker. Imagine expecting a vibrant red and getting a deep shade instead. It's a bit disappointing if you're following the set instructions closely because it can honestly confuse you. And of course, moving back to Greedo from the original Mos Eisley Cantina set, there is a version where Lego forgot to print on his right arm. And that's a pretty noticeable oversight considering how detailed these figures usually are. Now, here's a Senate Trooper with a backward helmet print. It looks fine from afar, but upon closer inspection, you do realize the print is on the wrong side of the helmet. Next up, an original 2005 Episode 3 Anakin Skywalker minifigure with an incomplete torso print. It seems like they only got the base layer of the lighter tan color, missing all the intricate details along the way. The comparison to what it should look like really highlights the mistake as well. I mean, look at these two. Then there's a 212's Trooper helmet that is completely lopsided. Unlike the Senate Trooper's backward print, this one is just skewed to the side, making it look unusual and just kind of comical too. We now even encounter a Shadow Trooper from 2007 with another helmet print that's shifted down and to the left. It gives off the illusion that the Trooper's head is turned towards you, even though the helmet itself is straight. It's a subtle little detail, but adds to an interesting dynamic to the figure. And plus, here's yet another Chewbacca misprint where the head print is placed way too low, making his face and smile appear on his torso. It's such a strange look that almost passes as a makeshift beard if you try squinting or if you squint hard enough. And still speaking of Star Wars, you may have noticed that there is quite a few, well, a lot of Star Wars misprints in this video. So by the end of the video, comment down how many Star Wars misprints you were actually able to keep up with and which one surprised you the most. And I wasn't kidding, because check out this cool Boba Fett with a helmet misprint that gives him a unique battle-worn look. It almost appears like he got blood splatters across his helmet as if he just came out of a rough skirmish. It's such a standout misprint that would definitely add some character to any collection. Moving on to a 2011 ARC Trooper with a subtle but cool misprint on the torso. It seems like the printer was low on ink or something because the usual dark gray torso ended up lighter. It's one of those details you might miss at first glance, but once you notice it, it's pretty neat to see how even the small printing errors can change the whole look of a minifigure as a whole. Next, there's a Stormtrooper Shock Trooper with a shifted helmet print. The eye and top prints are noticeably off-center, giving the trooper a slightly askew appearance. Take a look at this R2-D2 figure. At first glance, it seems normal, but take a closer look and you'll notice that the colors on different sections are a bit misaligned. It's a very subtle flaw, but it definitely disrupts the usual sleek appearance of everyone's favorite droid. On top of that, there's this classic yellow space minifigure. Something seems off though, right? Well, that's because the torso print is leaning to one side instead of being perfectly centered. Now, I know it's not a major flaw, but it definitely does throw off the symmetry quite a bit. Surprisingly enough though, despite the imperfection, collectors are all about this, with the prices soaring as high as $1,200 or even more. Now check out this Stormtrooper head with a noticeable issue. The eyes are completely wrong. It gives the character a distinct and somewhat peculiar look compared to the standard design. Despite its quirky appearance, this misprinted Stormtrooper head is fetching around $75 on the collector's market. Moving on to something really unique though, LEGO game controllers that were making waves among collectors. collectors. These aren't just any controllers though. They were short shot during production, meaning they didn't quite come out in the correct shape. Some even have missing prints adding to their allure. However, these quirky pieces are commanding prices though of about $35 each, proving that even manufacturing errors can become highly sought after in the LEGO community and people that just collect LEGO in general. Alright, let's zoom in on the LEGO Creator Harley Fatboy set for just a moment. Picture this, you're eagerly unboxing your brand new set, excited to dive into building your very own Harley Davidson Fatboy replica. But wait, what's this? As you peel off the sticker meant to showcase the iconic Milwaukee 8 engine, you'll notice something's not quite right. Instead of spelling out Milwaukee in full glory, the sticker reads Milwaukee, missing that crucial second E at the end. It's a very small detail, sure, but for anyone familiar with the Harley Davidson lore or just someone who appreciates accuracy in their collectibles, it's a bit of a bummer in a way. Now, brace yourself for the Tusken Raider minifigure that caused a stir. What's the big deal, you might ask? Well, the face print is just slightly lower than it should be, a subtle misprint that has collectors scrambling to add it to their collections. Because this tiny figure right here is currently valued at an astonishing $5,000. I'll say that again, $5,000. It's amazing how a minor printing error can turn a LEGO minifigure into a valuable treasure. $5,000! And now let's talk about Spider-Gwen, everyone's favorite with a twist. At first glance, she does look normal, but her torso is printed on the wrong color body, orange instead of the usual white. This small but significant error has transformed Spider-Gwen into a hot commodity among collectors, with current listings reaching an incredible $10,000! $10,000! That's a hefty price tag for a small plastic figure, but it does show you the dedication and passion of some LEGO enthusiasts who are willing to pay top dollar for these rare and unique items. I mean, be honest, would you buy a pricey misprint of your favorite LEGO minifigure? Like, would you spend this much? Let me know in the comments. I mean, just take a look at the C-3PO minifigure sporting a red leg. Now, normally C-3PO is all gold, but this misprint gives him a unique twist with that standout red leg. Now, I think he had a red arm sometime somewhere, but it kind of reminds me of his red arm in The Force Awakens, except this time it's his leg stealing the show. These kinds of unexpected errors make collectors go wild, and C-3PO with a red leg could easily fetch hundreds of dollars on platforms like eBay. Moving on to another amusing misprint, we have the Tasmanian Devil minifigure with misaligned eyes. Instead of being properly centered, the eyes are printed low and to the side, giving this figure a charmingly quirky look. Despite being a mistake, this misprint has become a favorite among collectors. Now, let's get into the fascinating Two-Face head misprint. Another Two-Face misprint. This one's a real gem though. A rare LEGO error where a minifigure head ends up with two faces printed side by side. Imagine that, like no joking. Two faces side by side. It's like a double dose of personality in one figure. These misprints happen due to a glitch in the printing process and they're highly sought after. I mean, some collectors are even willing to pay up to $250 for just one of these pieces. But let me show you something really cool. This toad block I stumbled upon. Normally, these blocks only have printing on one side, but this little guy here, he's got printing all over. It's such a hilarious sight, but honestly, it does add some charm. Who wouldn't crack a smile seeing Toad completely covered in print? It's not just funny though, it's downright cute. Now, check out this Black Panther misprint head. Instead of the usual color scheme, it's printed on this tannish flesh tone. It's a subtle difference for sure, but it does give Black Panther a totally unique look. And then there's the yellow-faced, jaundiced-looking Batman. You don't see these every day. Yellow-faced minifigures are a rare find nowadays since LEGO moved on to different color schemes years ago. This makes the yellow-faced Batman a real gem for collectors. Imagine having such a piece in your collection. It's not even just about rarity at this point. You're basically owning a piece of LEGO history. Up next, take a look at this security keypad with a goofy misprint on it. Instead of being printed the usual way, it's completely reversed, printing over the brick stud. Look at this thing. This thing looks completely whack. Or even check out Cole's headpiece from the Sons of Garmadon sets. The printing on his eyebrows and eyes didn't quite make it, creating an unusual look due to an ink problem during printing. Or moving on to Sensei Wu from 2012, this minifigure is missing its signature gold detailing. Normally adorned with bright metallic gold accents, this one ended up without them, almost like the printer completely ran out of gold paint mid-production. Let's talk about the N-Pop girl from the LEGO Ninjago movie series. accessories. One side of her face is completely devoid of the black detailing, which gives her a slightly eerie yet strangely captivating appearance. And jumping back to 2011, there is a common misprint issue seen in a Kai minifigure. The eyes aren't aligned properly with the mask's center point, and the scar prints are lighter and less defined than usual, making this misprint a noticeable standout. Or even from the 2012 Serpentine wave, we have a ZX ninja mask printed on a green piece instead of a standard white. To top it off though, the print itself is incomplete, suggesting a glitch in the printing process that led to an unfinished product as a whole. Or even moving forward to the Ninjago City set from the Lego Ninjago movie, there is a misprint where a printed piece is noticeably off-center, detracting from its intended design, and it's irking perfectionists everywhere. I mean, doesn't that just bug you a bit? Just a little bit? Or hey, look, remember the 2012 Lloyd minifigure from the collectible series? Early releases saw his hair mistakenly printed in a gray instead of its intended color, an error that was later corrected in subsequent versions, but how do you even make that mistake? Gray hair? Are you kidding? Gray hair? But now onto a rare find, the Samukai misprint. In this instance, the facial printing around his nose and upper mouth is completely absent, giving Samukai an unintended and rather distinctive appearance. Shifting gears to a Sons of Garmadon Kai minifigure, here's one with the logo misprinted off to the side and lower than intended. This small yet noticeable misalignment adds a quirky touch to this particular figure. And here we even have a standout misprint involving General Cryptor. This minifigure is missing the characteristic red dots on its headgear, which are typically a defining feature of Ninjroids in the Lego universe. Time to mix things up now, because who here is a fan of Harry Potter? Because guess what? We got some Harry Potter misprints on this list too. I mean, for instance, check out this misprint of Harry Potter himself. Imagine his iconic glasses on his headpiece, but they're printed slightly off to the side. This misprint does give him this cool 3D effect, like the glasses are popping out. It is a subtle misprint, but it definitely adds a unique touch to his minifigure. But onto a real gem, Dobby with his misprinted eyes. This version of Dobby is probably the creepiest you'll ever see. The eye prints are totally wonky. One almost is touching his forehead and the other is down near his cheek. It's hilarious and a bit unsettling for sure at the same time, but it is perfect for anyone collecting odd Legos. Then there's poor Hedwig. The owl's eyes are completely missing. And if that wasn't enough already, the black tip of its beak ended up beside where it should be. It's like Hedwig decided to go incognito with invisible eyes and a misplaced beak tip. Definitely a conversation starter among Lego enthusiasts for sure. Or even moving along to Basilisk's body. At first glance, it might seem fine, but look closer. The scales are printed all wrong. Instead of wrapping around where they should be, they're down on the stomach area. It's as if the printing machine got a little confused and flipped the design upside down. It's quirky to say the least and makes you wonder how these things happen. And of course, the infamous orange Dementor head. Now this one's got a bit of a cult following in the misprint world. Imagine a Dementor deciding to dress up for Halloween and getting an orange spray tan instead of the usual gray. It's like a jack-o'-lantern version of a Dementor, and it's oddly charming in its mistaken identity. Alright, anyways, check out this cool Olaf minifigure with the most hilarious and goofiest misprint you'll ever see. His eyes are printed way more on his left side, and his carrot nose practically covers the right eye. Now, if I was a kid and I got this in my Lego set, I'd probably be sad. But as a collector, this misprint version is way better and probably sells for a good price too. And then there's this AT-AT driver where the print is all scrunched up on the left side of the helmet. Honestly, it's also kind of cool in a quirky way. It's got that misprint charm, and the collectors often go nuts over something like this. But now, one of the more really interesting ones is the Jango Fett headpiece printed in red. I'm gonna say that again. Jango Fett headpiece printed in red. It kind of gives off Mandalorian Super Commando vibes, which is a neat departure from the usual colors you'd expect, but I don't even know how they messed this up. And then there's this Dengar figure from 2014 rocking a red Kilgon Dinjin headpiece. Apparently, it's a test print, which means they used cheaper colors to check the prints before going full production. I mean, I guess it's pretty cool how they experiment like that. Or you've even got this Umbarian soldier with a bright light orange head instead of the usual medium lavender. It's a subtle tweak, but it definitely changes up the look of the figure. And how about that Gamorrean guard missing the nose and belt print? It's like a minimalist version, which is kind of cool, I guess, but it does add a unique twist to the usual design. Oh, and then of course there's also the Anakin figure from way back in 2005, missing details like the belt and robe prints. case. It almost feels like a rare prototype that never got fully printed, making it a real gem for collectors. Like, honestly, if I had something like this, I'd be pretty happy with it. And last but not least, let's rewind to the early days of the Lego Back to the Future Time Machine set, where a small but noticeable error slipped through the cracks. You see, in the initial batches of this beloved set, there was a bit of a typo on the flux capacitor panel. Instead of spelling shield correctly, they accidentally printed it as shelled, with the E before the I. Very common typo, I guess, but that's a little bit crazy for Lego. Now, for fans of the iconic movie franchise, this wasn't exactly movie accurate, right? But here's where Lego really showed their commitment to quality. Once they caught wind of this mistake, the Lego Kuso team, which was responsible for bringing the set to life in the first place through fan support, stepped up to the plate. They didn't just issue an apology, they even went a step further, because Lego offered to replace the incorrect pieces with the right ones for anyone who wanted them. I mean, that's a pretty cool move, don't you think? It means that fans and collectors who wanted their DeLorean time machine to be as accurate as possible could get a corrected version free of charge. They don't got to worry about anything. They made it super easy for everyone. So anyways, which one was your favorite Lego misprint and why? Let me know in the comments below, and of course, subscribe!